Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and bonjour. Please, everyone, note that we are recording this session. My name is Karen Warner, and I'm a director with the Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization. I also own and operate Gaia's Den, a sacred sanctuary in nature, located south of Algonquin Park in the Haliburton Highlands, where we teach visitors how to experientially deepen connection and co-create with the earth. To do so, one of our offerings is a guided shamanic journey nature experience called Spirit of the Waterfalls. Let us begin with a land acknowledgement. As I offer a land acknowledgement, I invite you to close your eyes and receive it. Let go of what has happened before joining us today and what will happen afterward. Be present, place your mind in your feet. Place your feet on the earth, your mind in your heart, and tune into her sacredness. Become aware of your own breath. Now visualize this beautiful, magical land that we are all a part of in the Ontario Highlands and beyond. We first acknowledge the ancestors and the spirits in these territories where we do this work. To the northeast, some of the tourism region called Ontario's Highlands is located on traditional unceded Algonquin territory. To the southeast, Ontario Highlands is located on Mohawk territory. To the southwest, Ontario's Highlands is on Ojibwe territory. We honor the Modoc, the four directions, the east, the south, the west, the north. We say miigwech and are grateful that the Indigenous peoples have been stewards and gatekeepers of this land and beyond from time immemorial. We are called to treat this land, its waterways, minerals and rocks, plants, trees and animals, humans and stories, songs, traditions, history and its people with gratitude, honor and respect, all my relations. Since announcing our commitment towards responsible tourism last year, the OHTO board and operational team have identified 3 guiding principles as it relates to setting strategic direction and operational programming. These include inclusivity, community alignment, and sustainability. These guiding principles lay the foundation of our responsible tourism approach and set the stage for how we engage our sector towards building a stronger, more resilient future for our communities. We are pleased to follow through on this commitment by offering a series of webinars this month, which feature topics aligned with our responsible tourism approach. Our hope is to inspire and lead our industry and its communities through specialized programming and resources while ensuring supports are available along the way. We are excited to have you all join us in this journey. So without further ado, let's get on to today's session. I'm very privileged to today introduce 2 speakers. Angela Nagy is the president and CEO of GreenStep. Angela is a sustainability expert with more than 20 years of experience in project management, business development, marketing, and public relations. She has lived and traveled exclusively throughout the United States and Canada, working with all levels of businesses, utilities, as well as various levels of governments on a variety of engineering, energy efficiency, environmental, and sustainability related projects. Angela's experience also includes politics. She was elected to the Kelowna City Council and appointed as regional director in 2008, the same year she co-founded GreenStep. She is certified in organizational GHG accounting and as a sustainability practitioner through the Natural Step. Jean Burling is the director of Sustainable Tourism Division, GreenStep. Jennifer brings more than 20 years of experience in sales and business development, project and program management, and leadership in travel and tourism industry to manage GreenStep's Sustainable Tourism Division and team. Jen is a values-based leader with a distinct passion for delivering exceptional client experiences, working to support tourism clients in accessing and implementing our products and services as they embark on their sustainability journey. Stemming from her love of travel and passion for learning, Jen has become a subject matter expert in the field of tourism. Jen studied tourism and marketing management at BCIT and holds a certificate in project management from UBC. All right, ladies, take it away.
Thank you so much, Karen. Everyone can hear me okay? Thumbs up. Well, good morning to on this side of the country and good afternoon. Oh, got Got an extra added member there. Perfect. Thank you again for joining us today. We're very excited to have the opportunity to share the work we are doing to make the topic of sustainability more accessible to the tourism industry across our great country. Thank you to Casey and Adriana and the team at RTO 11 for inviting us to speak on our favorite topic and to help build capacity around the fundamentals of sustainability practices and how best to incorporate them into a tourism operation. Just before we get started with our program today, we at GreenStep would like to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge that we are joining you today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Seahole people in Kelowna and of the Squamish people in Squamish, British Columbia, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant communities and where we are grateful to live, work, and play. So I'm going to take you just through a little brief agenda today and let you know what we're going to be speaking about. We'll introduce you to our team, of course, myself and Angela, who are here today, and another member who is busy working with our members across the country. And we're really excited to be here to talk about sustainable tourism. As mentioned, this session is being recorded, so if you have to jump off early or if you'd like to share it with your colleagues, you will be able to do so afterwards. The chat box is available throughout the session, so feel free to jot down any questions that you might have. We are going to wait until the end to address questions, just in case we might answer it along the way as we finish our presentation. But Casey will keep an eye on the chat box and we'll make sure that we have time at the end to address any questions that you have today. If everyone could just keep themselves on mute and just to avoid any background noise, that will help the flow of the event. So as I mentioned, just a quick introduction. Thank you, Karen, for letting the team know who is here today. My name is Jen Burling. I'm the Program Director for Sustainable Tourism at GreenStep. I joined our team last July and I'm excited to be on board to lead the team in our work as we continue to provide useful tools, resources, programs, and expertise in the area of sustainability as it relates to the tourism industry. We also have a member, Shaylin Robertson, who supports our clients through the Sustainable Tourism Program deliverables, while also ensuring our systems and processes are running smoothly operationally. Shaylin also provides technical expertise as it relates to our consulting projects with our destination clients. I also wanted to mention we have another member that will be joining our team next month, our Sustainability Assessment and Certification Manager, who will be based right there in Ontario. So hopefully we'll have a chance to meet her in the sessions to come. And last but certainly not least, Angela Nagy, our CEO and founder of GreenStep, our guiding light. She has been trained by former Vice President and Nobel laureate Al Gore, David Suzuki, an IPCC scientist to deliver the Climate Reality Project. And as mentioned, is certified in organizational greenhouse gas accounting through the Greenhouse Gas Management Institute and as a sustainability practitioner through the Natural Step. You will all hear from Angela a little bit later in our presentation today. Oh, I skipped over our agenda a little quickly there. My apologies. So you can see here what we're going to cover today. Hopefully you had a chance to read that before I moved forward. We're just going to go through some of the definitions and principles around sustainable tourism. We're going to talk about the Global Sustainable Tourism Council and the pillars that helped shape the criteria that we use to assess businesses on their performance. We're going to break down the criteria into the 4 categories so that you have a better idea of what it means to be assessed on sustainability performance. Angela is going to take us through the business case for sustainability, which is always a compelling story. And we do have a case study that we can look at out there in Ontario as one of our members. How to get started. So a quick overview of our programs, and then Casey will be able to touch a little bit more on how the RTO is going to be supporting businesses in the region who want to get furthered along on their sustainability journey. We have a Sustainable Tourism 2030 pledge that we can touch on, as well as some other resources and readings that you can look into if you're quite interested in the topic and want to gain a little bit more knowledge. I apologize for my voice in advance. It's coming and going today, so I will possibly be sipping on my water throughout the presentation today, just feeling a little bit hoarse. So we've already introduced you to us, so we'll continue right along here. So a little bit about GreenStep. GreenStep was founded in 2008 and has worked with thousands of businesses across a number of sectors, including tourism, hospitality, retail, professional services, manufacturing, and utility companies. Our founder, Angela, identified a common challenge across all businesses where owners and managers want to do more to reduce their environmental impacts, be responsible in business, but with competing priorities, they often lack the time, knowledge, and budget to make meaningful progress. Enter GreenStep Consulting Services. GreenStep is on a mission to support businesses and organizations on their sustainability journey to help reverse the effects of climate change and protect our planet and communities for future generations to come. GreenStep provides expert solutions to measure and improve your sustainability performance that benefit the planet and your bottom line. And we practice what we preach. GreenStep has been a certified B Corporation since 2015, and we are powered by 100% renewable energy through Bullfrog Power. And each year we conduct a carbon footprint measurement of the organization and are pleased to be a carbon neutral operation. So it's no surprise to anyone on this webinar today that the last 2 years has changed the tourism industry forever. Although it has been immensely challenging for the industry, it has also offered the opportunity to pause, to take stock of priorities, to revisit strategic plans, and to reflect on what each business can do to improve our impact on the world around us. Over the years leading up to 2020, where destinations saw record level visitation and over-tourism became the trending term, there was little time for business owners and managers to dive deep into a sustainability strategy. All of us at GreenStep truly believe that sustainability can be leveraged to speed the collective recovery of the tourism industry, while at the same time rebuilding in a more competitive, thoughtful, and responsible manner. So since the pandemic began in 2020, we have seen a huge increase in interest for businesses wanting to become more sustainable. This is not only true for the tourism industry, but it extends to all sectors across all geographic regions. It's important to bear in mind, however, that as we begin to recover, sustainability is not a trend, but something that is ingrained in the way we do business. It is a necessary part of our daily lives, both personally and professionally, and some of the more noticeable and visible aspects of sustainability are related to some of the severe weather events that we've witnessed in the past year, from extreme flooding across the US and Europe and disastrous wildfires across British Columbia and California, also recent flooding here in BC as well. It's no surprise that these events have had negative consequences for the tourism industry that extend beyond the effects of the pandemic. There's been a large amount of research conducted in the past couple of years looking at how travel will resume in a post-pandemic world. With the shutdown of international travel, consumers also had the opportunity to pause and take stock about how they will choose to travel as the world begins to open back up. They too want to do the right thing and be responsible, conscientious, and in turn more selective in their purchasing decisions. Research from Booking.com has shown that 87% of travelers want more sustainable travel options to choose from. And 73% would be more likely to choose an accommodation provider, for example, if it had implemented sustainability practices. According to this particular survey, the biggest impact concerns for travelers included excess waste, threats to local wildlife and natural habitats, overcrowding of popular sites or destinations, and CO2 emissions. Deloitte and National Geographic have also conducted research on visitor behavior and future trends where sustainability will become a defining issue for the industry. As we work to rebuild the tourism industry, we can leverage sustainability to help attract visitors who care about your initiatives, while also protecting the environment, communities, and employees we serve. With all that being said, we know sustainability can be an overwhelming topic, and we often hear that business owners and managers are unsure where to start. The good news is that once business has begun to assess their sustainability performance, they are pleased to see that they're often doing more than they think they were. So we are here to support the industry on the long-term sustainability journey, producing tools, resources, educational content to improve the knowledge and capacity of small and medium-sized enterprises within the industry across our country and beyond, no matter where you might be starting on this journey. You may be aware that most recently, Booking.com as well as Google has started to add a very definable icon to their search engines. You can see there next to the green arrow, it says this is a travel sustainable property. So this is in response to consumer demand that they are seeking ways to be able to filter in their choice, in their selections as they are seeking to choose a travel provider. Similar sustainability icons are coming out from Google, Expedia, and other OTAs, and Booking.com already has theirs published. And they are currently looking to feature properties and experiences who have been certified by a certifying body whose criteria is recognized or accredited by the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. And more on them in a minute. Other sites that are dedicated to listing only eco-friendly properties and experiences have also been launched over the past year. They include such sites as ecohotels.com, bookeco.com, and there will be another one coming out of Australia later this year as well. So there's certainly that consumer demand that is being shown. This is another image from a recent research report done by PwC. And you can see here that we will show in this slide a bit later on more about the employee sentiment and motivation. But this one here also speaks to the consumer purchases and their responses to saying, I am more likely to buy from a company that stands for environmental, social, and governance. And the results there are quite high. This was based on 5,000 people responding earlier in 2021. And you'll see later on when we speak to the employee sentiment, as I mentioned, they're very much in alignment with the consumer sentiment, where employees are looking to work for companies that align with their values. And this is really the #1 driving factor for the millennial age bracket at the moment, making sure that they want to feel proud of the companies that they are representing. So what is sustainable tourism? I'm sure there are a few of you wondering, how do we define that term? So I have a little bit of a question to pose to the group here. So how familiar are you with the history of sustainable tourism as a concept and how to integrate sustainability into your business? If you wouldn't mind just popping an answer into the chat. So A, I'm a sustainable tourism guru. B, I've been working at it for a while, but I still have a lot to learn. C, I'm fairly new to the concepts of sustainability in tourism. And D, I'll admit it, I know nothing, and that's why I'm here. So if you wouldn't mind popping an A, B, C, or D into the chat, why don't we see what the group is feeling here? Oh, good. Okay, we've been quite a number of you have been working at this for a while within your own businesses. That's great to see. Awesome. That's certainly the trend here within this group. Excellent. Okay, well, that helps us to understand what stage you are all at in your journeys. So how we define sustainable tourism in the work that we do is really based on the definition as proposed by the UN WTO. So they define sustainable tourism as tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and host communities. The objective is to retain both the economic and social advantages of tourism while ensuring we reduce or mitigate any negative impacts on the host destination. To do this, we must balance the needs of tourists with those of the destination. There is sometimes confusion between ecotourism and sustainable tourism. The way we differentiate the two is that ecotourism is more of a type of product, as opposed to sustainable tourism, which is an ethos that underpins all tourism activities. As such, it is integral to all aspects of tourism development, destination management, and rather than being an add-on component or experience. So the key principles of sustainable tourism, they include maintain essential ecological processes and help to conserve natural heritage and biodiversity, respect the sociocultural authenticity of host communities, conserve their built and living cultural heritage and traditional values, and contribute to intercultural understanding and tolerance. Ensure viable, long-term economic operations, providing socioeconomic benefits to all stakeholders that are fairly and equally distributed, including stable employment and income earning opportunities, and social services to host communities, and contributing to poverty alleviation. So those are quite broad and a lot to think about. However, luckily our criteria touches on all of those things as you go through the categories as defined by the GSTC. So why is it important to measure sustainability, and what can you do with the results? So the GreenStep framework here that you'll see a few times in this presentation is really a cyclical process. Sustainability in tourism is a long-term journey for your business. It's, results are not going to happen overnight, but really the first step, as you can see here, is building awareness, which is exactly why we invite, members of the community to come and join us on these types of webinars. So being here and learning about the topic is a great start. And then, as I just mentioned, you'll want to begin assessing your performance to establish a baseline. You can't set reasonable goals without first knowing where you currently stand. You can use an online assessment tool such as ours to identify your business, where your business is doing well and where there is room for improvement. For example, a business might be succeeding in their recycling initiatives and switching to renewable energy, but they might not have considered the social or cultural side of sustainability. That is also very important. Establishing that baseline of data is beneficial in a number of ways. It allows businesses to better track consumption trends and patterns, identify inefficiencies within the business, catch billing errors, and create more accurate budgets, and improve operational efficiency as well. Once you have that baseline, you can then establish clear goals for your business. You'll want to consider the data and where you have the most room for improvement. And I'll show you later on how you can pull out those different areas of criteria where you may have scored a little lower, as well as the most feasible and achievable given your type of operation and where your personal priorities and passions lie. Accompanying the goals will be a solid action plan, which should include a timeline, a person responsible for each action to hold you and your team accountable. From there, you'll need to integrate your goals, action plan, and measurement systems into your daily operation. Communicate to your team, create a sustainability committee if needed, and begin implementing those operational changes needed to achieve your goals. On the measurement side, you'll want to make sure that you can continuously collect the data you used for your baseline, such as monitoring your utility bills to observe any changes in energy or water consumption, keeping track of fuel used in company vehicles, and tracking the percentage of purchasing that's coming from local communities, as an example. It's all about continuous improvement, as we've discussed. So understanding how you're performing now and identifying ways to keep improving over time so that you can continually monitor your progress. The next step is reporting. So sharing your sustainability story with your stakeholders. The data tells a powerful story and will add credibility to your communications across all platforms from both guests and staff, ownership, board members, etc. Perhaps you're already sharing with your guests how important sustainability is to your company. But after you've completed an assessment or started tracking data like carbon, water, and waste, you can put numbers behind your claims and start to share your current performance, achievements, your goals, your targets, and your progress. Not only will this attract more eco-conscious customers, but these actions also help to improve employee buy-in in your sustainability programs internally. And finally, as you start to achieve your goals, you should celebrate your accomplishments, share in the excitement with your staff and guests, consider applying for awards with your local Chamber of Commerce or business associations. You may wish to pursue certification through a company like ours, where this is a third party who validates and verifies your sustainability claims and awards recognition. Assessing and measuring your performance may be time consuming at first, but once you have the right tools in place, you'll be well on your way to improving your sustainability performance and benefiting as a business. Okay, so now we have a good understanding of what it's meant to be a sustainable tourism operation. Let's talk about how to effectively measure and analyze the sustainability performance of your business. So here at GreenStep, we've developed a sustainable tourism assessment framework, a set of 87 questions available as an online assessment that measures sustainability in each of the key pillars we just that I mentioned earlier: environmental, social and economic, natural and cultural, as well as overall management practices. Businesses can work through this assessment to analyze their performance in the various categories. The assessment serves to identify gaps and opportunities to advance performance and to set goals and create action plans for long-term continuous improvement. Our framework was developed in alignment with internationally recognized best practice indicators for sustainability set out by the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, who I will refer to as the GSTC. The GSTC, if you're not familiar, was created by the United Nations and other prominent NGOs with the goal to develop global standards for sustainable tourism, to create tools to verify sustainable businesses, and to help fight against false claims and greenwashing. They have created the most widely used set of standards for sustainability, the GSTC industry criteria for hotels and tour operators, as well as the GSTC destination criteria. Both standards are aligned with the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and cover each of the key pillars of sustainability that we mentioned. The GSTC does not directly certify entities themselves. Instead, they've developed these standards to be used widely in the industry. The Sustainable Tourism Assessment that we created has been GSTC recognized, as well as our destination criteria, meaning that our standard has been verified as equivalent to the GSTC criteria. So let's dive in a little bit more into the criteria and what it means to be assessed, and what kind of areas and what kind of questions we would be asking in an assessment. As mentioned, it's 87 questions. It's not meant to be easy. It is really thought-provoking. It may touch on areas that you hadn't even considered in your business before. I think the overarching perception of sustainability is that it really primarily equates to environmental sections and environmental initiatives and practices. So, sorry, little guy in the corner waving. But it actually encompasses so much more than that. And we will touch on those other areas, as I mentioned. So when you think about sustainability in tourism and how it can be applied to businesses, it is helpful to break it down into the key areas: the economic and social, the environmental, and the natural and cultural, as well as the management practices. It's important that each of these areas is adequately addressed to ensure a balanced, holistic approach to sustainability. Often when people think of sustainability, the environmental aspects, as mentioned, are front of mind, and it is important, of course, but the other pillars are equally important. And we'll dive into what each of those mean in just a minute. Another key point that is referenced in the UN definition is that in sustainable tourism, we must look at both current and future impacts from our industry, managing the impacts that we're creating and experiencing today, while ensuring we have a system for monitoring cumulative impacts and future trends. This ties in well with the next point, that sustainable tourism is a continuous process and it requires constant monitoring of impacts, introducing the necessary preventative and corrective measures whenever necessary. So whenever we're working with tourism businesses, particularly through the certification program, we stress this point often, that once you go through an assessment, whether it's a free sustainability score or to achieve certification, that it's not the end of the road, that there is always more that can be done, and that the long-term action plans and continuous monitoring are key. And finally, as the UN definition mentions, sustainability is about the balancing of needs of both the visitor and the destination. Our industry is unique in that it is highly collaborative and includes stakeholders from all sectors, between hotels and restaurants and shops and attractions, transportation, utility companies, government, nonprofits, and residents and non-tourism businesses as well. We work together to create the visitor experience, and therefore it is vital that we see participation from each of the stakeholders in the process of sustainability in order for our goals and actions to be successful. So I'm just going to break down each of the sections a little bit further so that you can further see what it is that we do cover in each of the categories in the assessment. See if it's going to come up here for me. There we go. So in the environmental section, which is probably one of the larger ones, the goal here is to maintain essential ecological processes and to help to conserve natural heritage and biodiversity. So what does that mean exactly? So here are some of the criteria that we look at in this category. As you can see there, resource consumption and conservation, solid waste and wastewater management, carbon emissions and transportation, protecting sensitive ecosystems, and managing visitor interactions. Just in the essence of time, I'm not going to break down each of those, but we certainly can give you some notes later on that will go into more detail, as well as you can certainly take a look at our assessment afterwards. But these are really the key areas under the environmental section. So for example, if you're a whale watching company, for example, and they're abiding by regulations for safe viewing distance, that's something to consider. If offering hiking tours, are you sticking to designated trails and obtaining proper permits? Are there ways you can contribute financially or in kind to local conservation efforts within the region? Protecting those natural assets, as we know, especially if your business is based around bringing guests in to experience the natural environment, is really going to be key and super important for your guests to see that is an important piece to protecting your business so that it can operate for the long term. And then similarly, managing visitor interactions with wildlife and ecosystems. Perhaps this is through interpretation during your tours, or maybe it's information for guests provided at checkout about the leave no trace principles or how to avoid wildlife encounters. I know we certainly have a lot of those out here where I live in Squamish. So as I mentioned, there's a lot more detail that can be covered, but as I move through this, we have a lot to cover today. So then we look at the social and economic section. So ensuring viable long-term economic operations, providing socioeconomic benefits to all stakeholders that are fairly distributed, including stable employment, income earning opportunities, and social services to host communities. So, here we go. So again, some of the, areas that we cover in this section is the criteria that we're looking for here is your business supporting social community development initiatives like healthcare and education programs? This is commonly in the form of charitable donations or volunteer hours by you and your staff. If you're a hotel, for example, you may consider offering conference space or hotel rooms to nonprofits at a reduced rate. And then we also cover under employment, for example, we ask businesses to measure the percentage of employees who are from the local community year round. We look to see if the business is providing opportunities for training, for education, beyond the basic onboarding, for example, and also if the business has implemented labor policies, including practices for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Under purchasing, this is a really important section. We encourage businesses to develop a written sustainable purchasing policy that can be used in supplier screenings when making new purchasing decisions. This can include things like prioritizing fair trade or organic products, locally produced goods. And we look specifically at what percentage of spending on goods and services is done with local suppliers within, which is defined as within 300 kilometers. Accessibility, as I mentioned, is a bit of a new area of criteria in this most recent version, and it starts with your facilities and your infrastructure, and if you have common areas, guest rooms, areas of restaurants, which are accessible to those with diverse abilities. And we also look at accessibility as it pertains to marketing. Is your website compliant with web content accessibility guidelines? And do you provide educational materials in multiple formats, such as audio and visual? So again, those with diverse abilities can access the content of your business easily. And the cultural section, natural and cultural, we call it. So respecting the socio-cultural authenticity of host communities, conserve built and living cultural heritage and traditional values, and contribute to intercultural understanding and tolerance. So what that means for us here is that we look, the criteria we look for here is how the business supports protection and preservation of local culture. So again, this might be through donations or volunteering with local heritage societies or community groups. Businesses may also need to manage visitor interactions. So if your operation takes place in or near a heritage site or living cultures, are you educating guests on appropriate behavior to ensure respectful interactions? in providing cultural education to guests, making sure this is done in a collaboration with the community itself. So in Canada, as many of you know, Indigenous tourism is growing in popularity, and many businesses want to incorporate this cultural element into their guest experience. However, if you're not Indigenous yourself, then best practice would be to consult with your local First Nations communities, hire Indigenous guides or interpreters, or partner with Indigenous tour operator or business. This way, you're ensuring their stories are told accurately and with respect, and you're also supporting local businesses and guides as well. Additional ways to support the local culture, including featuring local arts and crafts in your gift shop and hotel rooms or common areas, or serving local cuisine in your restaurants, for example. And the last section is management. It was actually probably one of our biggest sections, or the biggest, and also one of the easiest ones to tackle first. I know in most businesses, documenting certain processes and procedures might not always be the case, or might be standard practice. So that's usually one of the areas that we find can be addressed quite easily and quickly in order to improve the performance. So in this section, the topic, it's really all encompassing, but it really should be considered above all else. So we're looking at formal documentation and process your business has in place to help you improve sustainability over the long term. So often we hear that businesses are doing all sorts of things, but that's very difficult to verify if it's not written down or, in a way that can be proved. So having things documented is essential, not only to be able to consistently communicate to your staff and guests, but to make sure that everyone's on the same page and can be held accountable for your goals and actions. So, something like creating a vision, mission, or commitment to sustainability, followed by a written action plan with measurable goals. Your plan should include all aspects of sustainability, as we're discussing today. Next, we have employee engagement. So we encourage businesses to establish a sustainability team or committee if it's suitable to your business size, ideally with someone from each department if the business is big enough. Or, it can be just the business owners themselves, of course. You also want to communicate your sustainability goals and actions with your team as a whole and on a regular basis, particularly what individuals in their specific job roles can do to support your sustainability journey as an organization. So this might come in the form of onboarding and training materials, or weekly meetings, monthly staff meetings that are discussed, and making sure that that topic is discussed on a regular basis. We also want to see that you're engaging with guests in your initiatives. So letting them know why sustainability is important to you and your business, and what they can do to support your goals when they are visiting your property or your operation. Perhaps you might want to provide an added incentive for guests to participate in energy or water conservation programs during their stay, for example. One example I saw recently was that for each day that you forego housekeeping, you receive a $5 voucher at the hotel restaurant. So again, just a little extra motivation for guests. We do like to see that businesses have a separate page on their website dedicated to talking about sustainability, the initiatives that they have implemented, and why it's important to their business. Some businesses may include their sustainability performance in an annual report, for example, or they may speak to some of the achievements that they have in recognition of their efforts. An option, for example, would also be to create a visitor pledge or a code of conduct, a short video or a paragraph that outlines the values you want your staff and guests to adhere to while visiting your business or your destination. A pledge may highlight the principles of respectful interactions with local Indigenous communities, your leave no trace principles, bringing your own water bottle, for example, is just another way to engage visitors and staff in sustainability and the role that they have to play or can play. Visitors are also a key stakeholder to sustainability, so it's important to maintain a high level of tourist satisfaction and ensure a meaningful experience to the tourists, which in turn raises their awareness about sustainability issues and promote sustainable tourism amongst them, especially when they return home. Okay, so I'm just going to speed through the next few slides, make sure we have time for our business case. This is just a quick overview of our scorecard. So this is high level at the 4 category level here, where this business has completed the assessment. They're able to see how many points can be earned and how many points are available and how many have been earned, and what their score was in each of those categories. You'll notice here that it says it's an unverified score, which means that they haven't been through the evidence verification process yet. And that only happens when you are pursuing certification. Otherwise, when you're just doing a self-assessment or a lens or a diagnosis with us, then there isn't that added step of verifying the claims or the answers in the assessment. But excuse me, this is just a high level look at those 4 categories and then the overall score at the end there. And I'm going to speak to the programs a little bit later in the presentation about what kind of additional support that you can access once you've received this really important information and this data and you want to know what to do with it. This is at a little bit more of a detailed level where you can see here at the subcategory level. So not just in the 4 categories, but the categories within those 4 categories. And that will also show you how you've responded in each question area, how many points were available, how many were earned, and what your points average was. So this is a very easy way to just start going down the list and really pulling out those low performing areas that you can easily identify as areas where you have room for improvement. And also, also to pat yourself on the back with those higher level scores with, what you are doing and performing well in. And so that you can keep doing those things really, really well, as they might already be very habitual to your business and to your staff's behavior. And lastly, this is at the criteria level. So this is by question. I just wanted to show you an example of, it's not a yes or no question. No, I'm doing this, or yes, I'm doing this. There's obviously some nuances in between. And we have the ability to check multiple activities that you might be doing within one subcategory, or maybe you just aren't even aware of these types of indicators. And so therefore you aren't measuring this particular area, and that's totally okay. It's just, bringing awareness to that section is what's most important, so that you can, just really establish that baseline measurement. So as we're brainstorming your proposed action plan, or you're doing it on your own, it's really easy to hone in on these questions and say, I wasn't able to tick any of those boxes, or I was only able to tick one. So maybe that's a really easy step for me to use that as my first action under employee engagement, for example. I'm going to add this into my operation, and right away, that you're going to increase your performance by adding in this one activity that might be listed there. So it's really about, using this to your advantage, using this data and using this information to help you find easy wins, right? Quick, easy wins where you can immediately implement some small changes. Of course, there are larger ones that you can undertake as well, but areas where you can make small adjustments that will have immediate impact, and the action plan deliverables will ideally be achievable within a year's time, or 2 at the most, as we look to reassess businesses every 2 years if they are going through the certification process. So just quickly, a couple of example goals that you might consider as you're developing an action plan. Again, this can be done on your own or in collaboration with a team like ours, where you're really starting to set those ambitious, lofty goals, but also ensuring that they are achievable, that they're specific to your business, that they're of course very measurable, so that you can really identify whether you were able to achieve them or not, and that there's a time frame attached to them as well. So here's a couple of examples. I'd like to increase my local purchasing by 50% in the next 3 or 4 years. So that's within that 300 or 400 kilometer radius. Or I'd like to improve my energy efficiency by 75% by 2030, as we all hope to be closer to 95, I think is the goal. Add 10 new opportunities for guests to experience local arts, culture, and heritage by 2023. So how can you incorporate some local arts and culture and heritage into your operation, and just sort of start making a list of how you can do that. So those are just a few examples that are very specific, that are very measurable, hopefully are very achievable, and of course have a time-bound timeline attached to them. So you'll hear from me again at the end. I'm going to take a sip of water and I'm going to pass the mic over to my esteemed colleague, Angela, who's going to take you through the business case for sustainability and talk a little bit more about the financial benefits as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jen. That was excellent. I hope that everyone found some value in breaking down the definitions of sustainability and tourism, and then offering some concrete examples through the assessment criteria, which again is available for anybody to use for free. And that was really largely because we heard in our many years of working with the tourism industry that there are lots of businesses out there that just aren't ready, or maybe not even interested in certification, but they did want to measure their performance and they did want to do the right thing. So we've made it available. And the business case for sustainable tourism is one of my favorite subjects. It was really one of the key things that got me interested in advancing sustainability through business. And 14 years ago, when I started GreenStep, really this was the ticket into the door of a business or into the door of a boardroom, was talking about, how this is going to improve the bottom line. I think now that's still really important, although over the last 2 years, we're certainly seeing a lot more understanding and awareness of the issues around sustainability, particularly related to climate change, and also on the cultural side as well. So it's really gratifying for me, who's very passionate about the underlying reasons of taking care of the earth and taking care of people, that that those are becoming almost as important, and even in some cases, and for some people, more important for the business case. But we're here, most of us are in business in order to have more than what we started off with at the end of the day. So I think the business case is still very relevant. In working with thousands of businesses over the last 14 years, and we've worked with businesses inside and outside of the tourism industry, time and time again, the same key barriers when we ask, why aren't you doing more? What's holding you back? It's like, well, we want to do more, but we don't have the time. We're busy keeping our guests happy. And that's particularly relevant for small operators who are kind of wearing multiple hats. And this can seem like a nice to have, but not a have to have. So time is a big one. Budget, tight operating and capital budgets, and not always feeling like there is enough to invest in sustainability. But I'm going to show you how really there is an ROI when it comes to sustainability, and truly it's not just another line item on the budget that will never be recovered. It really is an opportunity for investment, and there are many low and no cost ways to improve sustainability performance. And then knowledge, wanting to do the right thing but not really knowing what to do next. And hopefully the criteria and the assessment helps provide some inspiration as to what can be done beyond some of the basic things that people think about when it comes to sustainability, which are often like recycling and energy efficiency and maybe electric vehicles. And usually that's, people are like, okay, I'm doing okay, right? Well, there's so many other things that can be done. And through the assessment criteria, we also help you to kind of put that all together, so it's not just a bunch of disparate things. Tackling these challenges is what we're going to talk about when it comes to the business case. Next slide, Jen. And of course, there are really good reasons to tackle sustainability and to advance sustainability. Of course, again, the real reasons are protecting the earth, ensuring that we have a planet for future generations, and ensuring that those future generations are hopefully as well off or better off than we have been, and we're leaving our natural and cultural and social systems in a better place than what we found them for our children and our grandchildren. But again, down to the business case. Of course, consumer and labor demands are changing. Jen tapped into that a little bit. We're going to talk a bit more about the statistics there. Energy and resource costs are going up, and we have a carbon tax in Canada that is going to increase the cost of carbon intensive fuels and energy sources even more than just the rates of energy. and materials. And now inflation is, of course, making that even more exciting and more compelling. And then there are significant cost savings and return on investment for getting ahead of these rising costs and being able to tackle these opportunities in a strategic way. So this slide, the business case for sustainability, this table comes from the work of Bob Willard, a Canadian author and expert in sustainability who has worked with hundreds of businesses in Canada and the US on strategic sustainability plans. And through his research, he was really able to quantify the opportunities that exist for businesses and also the risks that exist from doing nothing. So here, we're kind of looking here, if you think of it as sort of a profit and loss statement of sorts, where we've got our revenue on the top line and then a number of costs below that revenue line. So one of the opportunities here, which is quantified at around 9%, the ability to lead to about a 9% profitability increase, is being able to tackle and identify new opportunities to increase revenue. So that can either come through the launching of new products or services or experiences that are tied directly to sustainability related subjects, whether that's natural or cultural experiences as an example, or a new kind of LED wing, which is one of the examples we'll provide in a hotel. It can be being able to attract new investment as investment markets for those that are seeking outside investment, whether it's a business loan or private equity investment. Investors and banks are more and more starting to look at what is the carbon risk of the investments that they're making, and new customers, of course, as you're able to tell the stories around the initiatives that you're doing in a way that really resonates with your guests or potential guests' values. All of those can lead to increased revenue. Next slide, Jen. And as I mentioned, just a couple of case studies. So this is the Best Western Hotel in Kelowna that we've worked with for many, many years. One of the things that they did to address sustainability, and the original hotelier, Greg Salome, who has now sold the property, he was quite a leader in sustainability well before it was cool. I think he was the first hotel to actually add recycling bins to rooms, and then he continued on. But one of the things he did was invest in a whole new LEED certified wing and was able to market that to those guests, particularly corporate guests who were interested in fulfilling the needs of their own corporate sustainability purchasing policies, and of course attracting others who were interested in staying in a new LEED certified environmental wing. And they were actually able to attract a number of different utility rebates to help cover the cost of the increased expenses of installing some high efficiency equipment and building to a high efficiency standard. But of course, that's paying off now, because as energy costs rise, they have a super efficient building that is staying well below the operating cost of a traditional building or their older initial wing. They also implemented GreenStep's innovative Eco Fund program, whereby they're able to generate a significant budget to invest in high efficiency projects, larger high efficiency projects that might not normally make it into the budget cycle. And they use those funds to invest in a $125,000 solar PV system. They didn't have to spend any of their own money. It all came out of the Eco Fund. And they were generating about $84,000 a year through our Eco Fund program, leading to about 65,000 kilowatt hours in annual energy savings, which only adds up to about $5,000. Solar PV, unless there is a huge government incentives, isn't typically the highest ROI project, and it's not typically what we recommend first, but they really wanted to do it again for marketing their property as a green property. Next slide, Jen. So the next area is really on these operating costs. So if we look at, and I think Jen, if you click again, it might circle those. The reduced energy costs are the biggest opportunity. So for most businesses, most bricks and mortar establishments, if you're running a tour operation, you're guiding people, or don't really have a bricks and mortar business, this is less impactful. But for anyone who has a building or vehicles as part of your operation, this is a significant opportunity, and it is the one to get ahead of. I would suggest, I would say, employee attraction and retention is also a really important one in our industry, but a large ROI is possible here. And so that's looking at opportunities for improving the energy efficiency of lighting, hot water, HVAC, fuel, building envelope, and even employee behavior change. You can tackle all of, have the most efficient equipment in a property, but if, employees are still leaving lights on, or even guest behavior change, if we don't have sensors and controls in rooms, sometimes there are lost opportunities there. But that is a significant, the biggest opportunity. And that, again, as carbon taxes increase over time, the carbon taxes across Canada are $50 a year, $50 a ton this year, going up to $170 a ton by 2030. In some cases, depending on the fuel type, that is going to increase the cost of natural gas, diesel, gasoline, propane by anywhere from 30% to 100% by 2030. So really focusing on driving down your energy costs, particularly those that are fossil fuel based, or improving the efficiency of the equipment. If you're off the grid and you need a diesel generator and solar PV just isn't going to provide all of your needs, look at maybe supplementing some of your energy needs with solar or other renewable energy types, and making your equipment as efficient as possible. Next slide, Jen. So a case study here. This is from a resort, the Watermark Beach Resort, that we worked with in Osoyoos in British Columbia as well. A lot of these examples are from BC, but still great opportunities no matter what province you are in Canada. So we worked with them again through the Eco Fund program to do a lighting retrofit. So the project cost them just under $20,000 to replace all of the light bulbs in the property. We were able to help them identify a supplier that provides excellent quality bulbs at a very reasonable price because of their bulk buying. They had previously received a quote for over $80,000. So we were able to help them to identify a much better price. Annual cost savings estimated at $27,500. Lighting usually accounts for 10 to 15% of a building's total operating cost when it comes to energy. And LED lights are about 80 to 90% more efficient than a regular incandescent bulb, and even 30% more efficient than a CFL, compact fluorescent bulb. So it is always the lowest hanging fruit, particularly if there are rebates available as well. And the cost of LEDs and the variety of LEDs you can buy to provide that ambiance that you're looking for is improving, and to the point where really there's no comparison between or no issues between replacing incandescents with LEDs. So they were, payback period of 3.5 months and a significant annual energy savings. Next slide, Jen. So the next one is reduced waste and reduced materials. So that's looking at what are the things that are coming into your business. And if we look at the waste reduction hierarchy or zero waste hierarchy, and we're looking for what the most important things are to look at and approach when you're looking at reducing waste, it's what's coming into your business in the first way. So getting rid of single-use items. I know that's been a bit challenging through COVID, but as the situations are changing, those opportunities are more available. I've seen a lot of properties now, and high-end properties like Fairmont as an example. We're working with them on a single-use plastic-free certification. They've replaced all of the amenities in their hotel room with really nice-looking bulk amenities on the walls, in the washrooms. Just as an example, food services is another opportunity where there's often a lot of food waste, either prep waste or plate waste that's coming out. And there are many other examples, paper, and even single-use items that aren't plastic. So reducing those materials coming into the business upstream, and then of course, when you do generate waste, the opportunity to either reuse that to help cut costs in other areas, of course, diverting it from landfill as much as possible, and recycling is another opportunity. But the ability to reduce waste and reduce those materials upstream can lead to significant cost savings as well. And just an example, this is from Kelowna Inn & Suites. So this was one of the most innovative things that I've seen, and I just love this. It's kind of like what I do with towels in my own home. But they have these, beautiful, nice, fluffy towels that are being used in guest rooms. Once those towels are getting a little rough and a little threadbare, and they're not as the nicest quality that you'd want in the hotel rooms, they actually dyed them blue and then would make those available for pool towels. And then when the pool towels were, getting holes in them and just weren't nice enough to present to the guests, they cut them up and use them for rags and housekeeping. So I just thought that was such a great way to get the most life out of these towels and also avoid costs for extra pool towels and extra rags. And really, those towels got the life used right out of them. We also did an analysis on single-use cups. So paper cups for coffee or plastic cups for water, as we'll often see. Cutlery is another big one. So we did an analysis to understand what the cost difference would be if a property were to replace all of their single-use cups with glass and ceramic. They would be able to eliminate all of the ongoing costs of purchasing those on a regular basis, monthly basis, as well as the cost of hauling those products away from the property. So cups are bulky unless they're getting stacked and put into the waste bin, which they're typically not. They take up a lot of room. They fill up the dumpster, and that dumpster needs to be moved more frequently for something that guests use one time. So not only is it a waste of money, it's also a pretty big waste of resources. So we kind of looked at adding the washing costs in there, and then did some math, and it looked like we were going to have a payback of about 3 to 6 months by moving from single-use items to glass and ceramic. So great opportunity to reduce costs there. Next slide, Jen. Okay, and then the last area, which I know is a huge challenge for the industry, not only in Canada, but everywhere. I just returned from a trip for a wedding in Mexico, and you could tell that there were a lot of new staff at the properties that we were visiting. People were being retrained. People that worked in the industry had to go find jobs elsewhere. So this is even more important than it has ever been in the tourism sector. So there's a lot of evidence, as Jen showed, and we'll go to it into the next slide, that employees are really looking for workplaces where they resonate with the values of the employer. And I don't know about you, but I know when I'm hiring people, sometimes I almost feel like I'm being interviewed, asking about our business practices and asking about a lot of things. What do you have to offer me as an employee coming to work for you? So, and then again, that's the employee attraction piece, employee loyalty, retention, and productivity. Employees who feel really good about their workplace and are connecting with the values of their employer, again, are willing to work a little more, a little harder. They're a little more productive, and they stick around longer. They're loyal as well. So you reduce those employee turnover expenses. Next slide, Jen. So lots of data here. I think one of the questions was around the statistics. What are the statistics around consumer demand and employee demand? Well, both consumers and employees are looking for businesses to invest in making those sustainable improvements to the environment and society, and they're more likely to buy or work from companies that share their values. And some really big stats here from that PricewaterhouseCoopers survey: 90% of employees indicated that the company's sustainability work enhances their job satisfaction and overall feelings about the company. 97% believed that it was critical to the future success of the company. 86% of employees prefer to support or work for companies that care about the same issues that they do. So really encourage you, if you're not already, to start talking about your sustainability work. A lot of you mentioned in the survey that we did at the beginning, or the poll, that this is something you've been working on. So include that in your job post, include that in your onboarding, tell your story, not only to the outside world, but also to your internal team to help build that satisfaction and loyalty and get more input and ideas and engagement around sustainability, which really helps, again, on that employee retention and loyalty. Next slide, Jen. So when we look at this, when we put it all together, there is the potential from adding all of these pieces to increase profitability by anywhere from 50 to 80%. Even I always say, even if that's half wrong, 25 to 40% is still not bad. And as energy costs rise, I think that that number is going to go down a little bit, but at least you'll be able to stay ahead of that and not end up on the other side of this scenario where there's the risk of doing nothing. Decreased revenue because you're losing business to competition or not exploring and innovating in new experiences and offerings for your guests around sustainability, meeting that growing interest and demand, increased costs on the energy, materials, and waste hauling side, and losing team members or not being able to attract the right team members, all of which can have negative consequences for businesses and lead to a decrease in profitability. Next slide, Jen. So some simple steps and no action costs to get started. Again, lots of opportunities here. So just, looking at energy waste and materials. So again, implementing energy conservation measures. So that can be as simple as putting up signage, reminding people to turn off the lights, programming your thermostat, insulating your hot water tank or hot water pipes. Again, if you've got a bricks and mortar building, if you've got fleet vehicles, taking some training on fuel efficient driving. And over time, of course, those bigger investments around retrofits or replacing vehicles with hybrids or electric vehicles as the cost of those comes down as well. Water conservation measures can be fairly inexpensive as well. So low flow faucet aerators, they're just like I think under $1, you can switch out the faucet aerator for hand washing or low flow spray valves. High water efficiency appliances and drip irrigation are some other opportunities. And again, on the waste side, looking at how do you reduce upstream waste that's brought into your business through purchasing policies and reduce and reuse policies or donation policies for that downstream repurposing, recycling, and composting. I know composting can be challenging if you're remote, but there are some pretty cool and innovative technologies that are coming out that are allowing for bear and pest safe composting options. Next slide, Jen. There are also federal and provincial incentive programs. I know Ontario does have some programs for small businesses specifically. Maybe Jen can share some links from that. I think we shared them in a OHTO webinar we did last year. Federal rebates for EVs if you do have a fleet, or even your personal vehicle if you're using it for business. Charging infrastructure is improving significantly, and the cost of EVs is coming down as the cost of fuel goes up. So it's becoming even more compelling. And again, lots of rebates out there from utilities for electricity and natural gas retrofit projects, either for your home, if you're in a home business operation, or for your business. Again, reprogramming your thermostats. Again, do this at home if you can, or in your business. 23 degrees when occupied, 28 when unoccupied. That's typically what I do at my home in the summer. In the winter, I actually have it like at 16 when it's unoccupied, and 18 when occupied in the winter. So you do want to adjust that seasonally. Hot water, you can reduce your hot water tank set point. It doesn't cost anything, so that the hot water doesn't heat up as much. 49 degrees Celsius is a good average. And if you do are in a hotel operation, ensuring that staff are following requests for linens and towels. I know I've stayed at properties many times and I'm hanging my towels up diligently, but they still get taken away and replaced with new ones. And unplugging appliances when not in use. Coffee makers, mini fridges in rooms, if you have them, make sure you leave the door open or they'll get musky inside. And office equipment, you can put it on a power bar to make that easier. And as Jen mentioned, really this is the integrating and monitoring and measuring impacts and results phase, some of the actions that you can do. I won't go through this again because I know we want to leave some time for questions, but it really is a cycle. So make your plan, implement your plan, measure the impacts, and then tell your story. And rinse, wash, and repeat, or wash, rinse, and repeat.
Great, thank you so much, Angela. So I just have a couple last slides before we wrap up and take questions. I mentioned we were going to talk about one of the businesses in Ontario that we've been working with for a few years. They are a gold certified member of our sustainable tourism program. Don't worry, they didn't start as gold. It takes time to get to that level and increase your performance, and therefore increase your score over time. I think they've been a member for over 5 years now. And, you know, it's quite normal to be starting at that, you know, 50% or less sort of scoring points, baseline measurement, and then moving up increasingly each year from that point forward. So we just wanted to mention Elmhurst, since they're in, you know, in your province. What's impressive about them is how much they've done in the management category as a new member. From sort of newer member, from the beginning of the certification process until now, they had some great on-site initiatives in place, things like resource conservation, nature-based education for guests, and local purchasing. The certification process proved to motivate the owners and their teams to put more formal policies and procedures in place, to start regularly tracking different areas of sustainability performance, and to widely communicate their goals and actions with their guests. They have a unique sustainability page on their website where they talk about their certification. They have the logo and why this process was important to their business and what they learned through the process. They then outline the highlights of their accomplishments to date, things like controlling erosion through shoreline management and diverting sewage from their nearby lake, installing solar panels and using biomass for heating, and creating their Elmhurst's own brand for all the food that they produce on site, from honey to beef to turkeys. They have established an impressive sustainability plan, an internal document with a start and end date to ensure it is continually updated. Here, they reiterate their commitment to sustainability. They state who is responsible for sustainability within the company, their action plans, and their goals for improvement. Their first goal is to achieve optimal energy efficiency in consumption of water and energy outputs with reduction of waste outputs. Energy inputs and reduction of waste outputs. They perform audits on all energy sources to get their baseline. On sustainable purchasing, their goal is to compose and deploy a questionnaire for current and future suppliers using our GreenStep Sustainable Tourism Guidelines. They will then give suppliers a sustainability grade from 1 to 5 to assist in prioritization of sustainable suppliers and influence others to do so. Finally, their stakeholder engagement. Their first goal is to engage their travel trade tour operators and ask for their sustainability metrics. Then they plan to provide guests with a sustainability kit containing reusable beverage container, environmentally sustainable insect repellent, and sunscreen, and to produce a video for guests with tips on using energy and water efficiently while they're on site. So after all this information that we've shared with you today, I know it's a lot. We normally don't go on for this long, but we really wanted to encapsulate everything that we could, so you had lots to take away with you. How do you get started? I know most of you said you've been on this journey for a little while, so you probably already are on your way, and that's great. We can meet you where you are at. We have a variety of programs to help support your next steps. And what that looks like here is and Casey's going to speak to how the RTO can support you on your journey, again, wherever you might be starting or already partway through into, you know, establishing how you're going to improve over time. As Angela mentioned, our assessment is available for free to the industry. We put that out in 2020 actually, and we want to make sure that people have a really usable, tangible tool that's free to the industry to use. So that's a good starting point. We then have a lens assessment that we've actually customized for our TO 11 to include a consultation with one of our team members, where you can go through your assessment results, you know, really sort of interpret your results a bit better, learn to kind of review them, make sure that they were answered correctly, and to understand your score a bit better. We also have a diagnosis, which is a more sort of detailed review of your assessments. Your assessment, we go through and clarify and confirm some of the results. We learn a little bit more about your business, your priorities, your sustainability goals, if you have any, to make sure that we incorporate those into a custom action plan that we will collaborate on and deliver for you to implement over the next year or two, depending on when you're looking to reassess your business. If you are pursuing certification, we require our certification members to reassess every 2 years. If you're doing a diagnosis of your business, we suggest typically that you look at reassessing every year. And lastly, the certification, as we've been talking about, if you are looking to get recognized for your efforts, if you've been on this journey for a little while, then the biggest difference here between the diagnosis and the certification is we spend time verifying your claims. We ask for evidence to be submitted, and we really make sure that your assessment is accurate. And that adds that credibility factor. So, I don't like to use the word audit, but we basically go in and make sure that the questions are being answered correctly and that you have proof to back them up. So that's an annual membership. And as I mentioned, we go through this recertification process every 2 years. Lastly, we launched the 2030 pledge in partnership with the Tourism Industry Association of Canada in 2021. So you may have seen that circulating in your inboxes. And really, this is just a way that we thought was a way for people to sort of get started, to show their commitment. The pledge was designed to engage tourism stakeholders in sustainability, to encourage them to start tracking their performance, and to make a public commitment to improve that performance by 2030. If you're interested, you basically take the online assessment, you make a public commitment that you submit to us, we verify, and then you're basically on your way to, working your way towards improving that performance over time. And it's a great way to show your commitment to both your guests and your staff as well. Adds a little bit of accountability factor. So there's a few, little mentions there about why a pledge is beneficial. And again, it's just sort of build that community around the topic, around sustainability. I think we're over 100 pledge signatories now in Canada. And, we're really looking to build that community of like-minded businesses that can also help each other out as you're starting to gain momentum and build on your commitment. So basically you can sign up anytime and access the pledge online, which again, measures your sustainability score, asks you to make a public commitment, and then you are added to our signatory list. And we'll do obviously some marketing around that on your behalf as well. And lastly, there are lots of resources out there. Of course, we have some, but there are tons out there from a variety of sources. We are starting to build a webinar library, again, free to the industry for the time being. And we are looking to develop some member-specific resources as well that will be available in a member portal. But right now we have our webinar library for free. Those include webinars like how to create a sustainability action plan, where Angela takes you step by step for an hour on how to sort of DIY it yourself based on the results of your assessment. We also have a really interesting one up there right now that we did a few weeks ago on carbon footprint measurement, reduction, and offsetting. It can be a little technical, so it's nice to have it recorded and you can kind of go back and rewatch it a few times. And there's a few resources listed there if you're interested in, again, that DIY kind of approach to carbon footprint measurement, which we also offer as a service. But we also guide you if you're looking to learn more and do that on your own. Our next live webinar is at the end of March, where we're going to be going through how to share your sustainability story in a responsible way. There's a balance sort of, again, between avoiding greenwashing, making sure that you have tangible evidence to back up your claims. And we're going to be having a conversation with industry leaders around that and how they started to really share the information outside of just on their property. Because the biggest thing is making sure that your guests are aware, or your potential guests are aware of what you're doing, so that they will be attracted to your property when they're making those property or experience when they're making those purchasing decisions. So that will be an interesting conversation. Please check out our blog, join the newsletter. Breaking down the business case is also a blog post. We've got one called You're Greener Than You Think. So 5 steps to finding and sharing your sustainability story. again, carbon footprint reduction, 10 tips to draw down, and there's many other blog posts on there. And we often will have information going out on a monthly basis that just, again, helping to build capacity around the topic, since we know it's such a broad topic to digest among the other million of priorities that tourism business owners have on a daily basis, including a global pandemic. So lastly, this is where you can contact us. I'll send it over to Casey. We've only got about 9 or 10 minutes left. I'll let her wrap things up and take any questions as they come in as well.
Great, thank you. Yes, both Jen and Angela, that was a really thorough, great dive into sustainable tourism and what it can mean for operators at the business level and even for organizations. Anyone looking to get down this path, there's clearly a lot of different opportunities and ways to help you, from the DIY approach to getting help from GreenStep. And just kind of bringing it back to what our board director, Karen Warner, had kind of presented at the beginning of this session, for Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, we are very much committed to going on a responsible tourism journey, which involves looking at sustainable tourism and seeing what we can do as a destination, and then also how we can support our operators in the industry for those who are interested in doing this and investing in this. So we have and we're looking at with them. And so for our members, we're right now going to be providing for free lens assessments for those who complete the free assessment with GreenStep. So in the post-event, this post-webinar, you'll get an email, which will have a link so you can sign up to express your interest in having a lens assessment completed. And as Jen mentioned, that's where you kind of get a more detailed look at your scorecard, and you get that 1-hour consultation. And at this time, we are also committed to help you through your journey. If you end up moving forward and wanting to do the diagnosis, we can help financially support that process, and same with certification. So we are working on developing a program to kind of be delivered throughout the year. But our first step is at least getting out there and encouraging as many operators to do the lens assessment, get your free score, and we'll continue with you wherever you end up going. So again, after this event, within the next 24 hours, you'll get an email which will have the recording to this session, as well as that link so you can book. And we're very much excited to be working with GreenStep. And yeah, more information will come probably in the next month or two, so you can see what our journey will be like, as well as what opportunities are available for our members. Yes, and I did want to also thank again, Angela and Jennifer. Your presentation was great. This is part of a series this month. We had 10 webinars in total. There are still some taking place that you can still register for. A link will be provided in the email as well, so you can, if there's other ones that come to mind you might be interested in participating in. And I'll wrap it up there, but still allow for questions. So if anyone has any questions for Angela or Jennifer, you can pop them in the chat, or we are somewhat of a small group, so if you feel like it, you can just unmute and turn on your video if you want, and ask any questions that you have, or any comments. If there's anything you want to comment on about today's presentation, that's welcomed as well. Look to see.
Any hands? Anything in the chat? Oh, no, just a comment. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we're really excited to be partnering with your region. Thank you, Casey. This is a really interesting project being driven by your team at OHTO 11, that are really on this journey with you and looking to support your region in becoming a more sustainable destination. So it's great to see that you are looking ahead for the year and beyond. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's all in the works. Again, it's a journey, right? So who knows where it will take us, but we at least know we want to go forward, not backwards. So yes, I guess, well, if there doesn't seem to be some questions, so thank you both. And oh, we have one. Oh,
Started the
the
assessment. Yeah, that's a good push to finish it. Yeah, like I mentioned, the assessment is not, take a couple hours probably if you're a small business. If it's, you and a couple other people that can sit down and look over the questions. If you're a larger business, it can take a little bit longer to bring in members from various departments to help answer. But the good thing about our platform is you can go in and out of it. You can save your answers and come back to it later. You don't have to sort of sit down for 2 hours and do it in one go. So thanks, Emily, for your comment. And I hope you enjoy going through the process. I know it's always quite enlightening to kind of go through these questions and realize what sustainability really does encompass.
great. Well, thank you, everyone, and to all of today's participants who joined us today. We really appreciate your participation, and we're always here. The OHTO team is here to support and continue as we venture on tourism. So thank you all again, and I hope you all have a wonderful
Thanks, everyone.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.